Hey friends, and welcome to Sleepy Time Tales. I'm Alex, and tonight we're diving into the magic, mystery, and just a hint of the eerie with three of our favorite Halloween tales. Each story is carefully chosen to bring you that perfect balance of spine-tingling mystery and cozy enchantment. Ideal for a night when you're ready to unwind. Tonight's journey takes us from haunted forests and hidden libraries to ghostly masquerades, all set against a gentle backdrop of soothing rain, blending the strange with the comforting. Each story is read by me, so you can drift off without disruption and just let the tales carry you away. Settle in, relax, and let's begin with a night full of mystery and autumnal charm. In a small countryside town, everyone knew the legend of the Forest of Lost Dreams. It was said to be a mysterious place that lay on the outskirts of town, where on Halloween night, magic filled the air and strange things happened. Every year on Halloween, the forest would come to life, and people believed that the forgotten dreams and abandoned wishes of all who had walked through it would awaken. On this special night, between October 31st and November 1st, anyone who ventured into the forest might catch a glimpse of the Keeper of Lost Dreams, a mysterious figure who guarded the forest and watched over all the dreams people had left behind. Both children and adults loved to tell the story each Halloween. Kids would imagine their dreams wandering freely through the forest, while adults thought of the childhood wishes and old ambitions that they had let slip away over the years. It was a tale that brought both joy and a little shiver of mystery to everyone in town, and every year people gathered around to hear it again. But this Halloween, a little girl named Lily and her father Michael decided they wanted to go and see the forest for themselves. Lily had just turned 9 and was a lively, curious girl who loved adventure. Her father was a storyteller who cherished the spirit of Halloween, always encouraging her to keep her imagination alive. It was he who first suggested the idea, saying, "Let's go, Lily. Maybe the Keeper of Lost Dreams is real, and we'll get to hear some of the dreams he guards. Imagine the kinds of things people might have wished for over the years." Lily eagerly agreed. They spent Halloween Day preparing for their adventure, and Lily wore a bright orange cape that reminded her of autumn leaves. She brought along a small lantern her father had given her. At 10 o'clock that night, they set out towards the forest. A soft breeze rustled the leaves, and the full moon lit their path as they made their way through the quiet, crisp night air. When they reached the edge of the forest, Lily looked up at her father, excitement and a hint of fear in her wide eyes. The trees seemed taller and thicker than usual, and an air of mystery hung over everything. "Do you think the Keeper of Dreams is really in there, Dad?" she whispered. Michael smiled down at her. "Only one way to find out," he said with a grin. They stepped into the forest, and each step seemed to draw them further into another world. The more they walked, the more they felt an unusual, enchanting energy all around them. Soon, they spotted a faint glow on a hidden path to their left. They followed it, discovering a small lantern hanging from a branch, softly lighting their way. It seemed to float, almost like it was leading them somewhere. Fascinated, Lily and her father exchanged a glance and decided to follow the strange light. After a short walk, they emerged into a clearing. In the center sat a figure cloaked in silver. He was the Keeper of Lost Dreams, the guardian of legend, and he seemed to be waiting for them. His face was kind, his eyes bright and warm, twinkling like two stars as he looked up and smiled, gesturing for them to come closer. "Welcome, travelers," he said in a voice that was deep yet gentle, soothing in a way that made them feel at ease. "Have you brought a dream to share? I am here to listen." Lily and her father were too surprised to speak at first, but then Lily stepped forward, gathering her courage. "I have a dream I've always wanted to come true," she said, her voice a mix of wonder and excitement. "I want to be able to fly like a bird. I've always dreamed of that." The Keeper of Lost Dreams nodded with a soft smile, his face glowing with approval. Raising a hand, he lifted his own lantern, and a soft, magical light filled the clearing, spreading out in waves. Suddenly, Lily felt as light as air, as if her feet had left the ground. Michael felt it too, and before they knew it, they were both floating above the trees, the moonlight shimmering all around them. Lily laughed in delight, taking in the view from high above. She and her father were flying, just like she had always dreamed. They drifted gently, gliding over the forest, guided by the Keeper's lantern as it floated in the air beside them. For those few moments, nothing else in the world existed but the two of them, the light and the endless night sky. After a while, they felt their feet softly touch back down in the clearing, and the Keeper looked at them with a gentle expression. "Dreams are precious, both big and small," he said in a calm voice. "Never forget them, no matter how old they may be. Each dream holds a spark of hope and beauty. Tonight, remember to hold on to what you truly wish for. And as you return to the world beyond, don't ever stop dreaming." With those words, the Keeper of Lost Dreams rose from his seat, his form fading gently into the trees until he disappeared completely, leaving only a soft, warm glow in the air behind him. Lily and Michael stood in the clearing, feeling a sense of awe and wonder at what they had just experienced. They had no idea if it had been a dream or something more, but they both knew they would never forget this night. They made their way home, hearts full of happiness and magic. And that night, they both slept soundly, filled with a deep sense of peace. The next morning, Lily found a tiny lantern beside her bed, exactly like the one they had seen in the forest. She showed it to her father, who looked at it with a mixture of surprise and understanding. It was a gift from the Keeper of Lost Dreams, a reminder of the night they had flown together under the Halloween moon. From that day on, every year on Halloween, Lily and her father returned to the Forest of Lost Dreams, hoping to see the Keeper once again. They would step into the forest, lanterns in hand, wondering if the Keeper would show them another forgotten dream. And every year, they left feeling that same special kind of magic. It was their secret tradition, and even as the years went by, it was a night they always shared, a moment of wonder and magic to carry with them through every Halloween. In the quaint town of Willowbrook, there was a library as old as the town itself. Its tall, creaking shelves were filled with books of every kind, from worn classics to mysterious old volumes that no one remembered placing there. The librarian, Mr. Alistair Grimm, was just as ancient and mysterious as the library. He was a quiet man with a silver beard and deep-set eyes that seemed to hold countless secrets. Mr. Grimm had been there for as long as anyone could remember, and he seemed to know each book in the library like an old friend. But there was one book in the library that no one was allowed to read. It was an enormous tome bound in dark leather with strange, swirling symbols on the cover. The children in the town called it the Forbidden Book. According to legend, anyone who dared open the book on Halloween night would be transported to a magical realm within its pages, a world where the stories came alive. Mr. Grimm guarded this book with a dedication bordering on obsession, keeping it locked away in a glass case in the back of the library. As Halloween approached, three friends, Ben, Lucy, and Lucy's father, Henry, became fascinated by the stories surrounding the library and the forbidden book. They loved Halloween and couldn't resist a good mystery. So on Halloween night, they decided to stay late at the library, hoping to catch a glimpse of the book and, perhaps, the secrets it held. That evening, the library was dimly lit, with only a few lamps casting shadows that stretched across the walls and floors. Mr. Grimm, as he did every Halloween, was tidying the shelves, muttering to himself as he glanced over his shoulder now and then. The three friends hid in a dark corner, peering out at the librarian. Ben, barely able to contain his excitement, whispered, "Do you think he'll let us see it?" Lucy's father, Henry, shook his head with a smile. "I don't think so, but maybe we can ask. Mr. Grimm has been here a long time. Maybe he'd be willing to share some stories." As midnight approached, Mr. Grimm took a large, rusted key from his pocket and made his way to the glass case at the back of the library. Ben, Lucy, and Henry followed at a distance, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Mr. Grimm unlocked the case and carefully lifted the forbidden book. He turned to face them, his gaze piercing yet kind. "You're here for the book, aren't you?" he asked with a sly smile, his voice a soft, gravelly whisper. "Many come, but few are brave enough to open it." The three friends nodded, feeling a strange mixture of excitement and apprehension. Mr. Grimm held out the book to them, his eyes twinkling. "Go on," he urged. "If you truly wish to discover its secrets, open it. But remember, this book has a life of its own, and once you're inside, you must follow the rules." They hesitated, but finally, Ben reached forward and opened the book to its first page. A bright, swirling light engulfed them, and within moments they felt themselves being pulled into a world of shadows, colors, and whispering voices. When they opened their eyes, they found themselves standing in a grand hall, filled with enormous, dusty chandeliers, cobweb-covered portraits, and strange, moving staircases that seemed to go on forever. "Welcome to the Library of Lost Tales," a voice echoed through the hall. The friends spun around to find a tall figure dressed in a black suit, holding a silver candle. His face was pale and expressionless, his eyes cold yet curious. "I am the Librarian of Lost Tales," he announced, bowing slightly. "You are now inside the world of the Forbidden Book." Lucy clutched her father's hand, her eyes wide with awe and fear. "Where are we?" she asked in a trembling voice. The librarian smiled, but there was something chilling in his expression. "You are in a world where stories live, where every tale has its own place and purpose. Here, characters roam freely, searching for readers to bring them back to life. But beware," he warned, his voice dropping to a whisper, "for not all stories are kind, and some do not wish to be remembered." As they looked around, they noticed shadows moving along the walls, figures slipping in and out of the shelves. Characters from forgotten tales whispered and called out to them, some with kind eyes, others with hollow stares that sent shivers down their spines. One figure, a young girl in an old-fashioned dress with large, sorrowful eyes, stepped forward. She looked at Ben with a pleading expression. "Would you read my story?" she asked softly. "I was left unfinished. No one remembers how my tale ends." Ben felt a pang of sympathy but hesitated, glancing at Lucy and Henry. who seemed equally uneasy. Before he could answer, another character, a tall man with a dark cloak, stepped out from the shadows. "Be careful," he warned, his voice smooth as silk. "In this library, each story you read brings you deeper into the world. Some never find their way back." Lucy's father put a hand on her shoulder, glancing at the tall figure with suspicion. "What happens if we get lost?" he asked, his voice steady but tense. The librarian of Lost Tales tilted his head, an eerie smile playing on his lips. "Every visitor must find their own way back," he replied cryptically. "Follow the stories wisely, for they will guide you. But do not linger too long, or you may become part of the tales yourself." The three friends exchanged worried glances, but continued to explore. The hallways seemed to shift as they moved, and each corridor led to another filled with strange scenes and landscapes. They saw rolling green fields under purple skies, grand castles surrounded by moats of mist, and forests where the trees whispered secrets to each other. Lucy was drawn to a small, dusty book lying on a table. She picked it up, and before anyone could stop her, opened it. Instantly, the room changed, and they found themselves in the middle of a vast, stormy ocean. Thunder rumbled and lightning cracked across the sky. In the distance, a ship with tattered sails drifted toward them, manned by ghostly sailors who gazed at them with hollow eyes. Henry pulled Lucy close, shouting over the roaring wind, "We have to close the book, Lucy!" Quickly. Lucy fumbled with the pages, struggling to shut the book against the fierce wind. Finally, she managed to close it, and the ocean disappeared, replaced once again by the quiet, eerie library hall. They breathed a sigh of relief, but the librarian was watching them with a look of mild amusement. "Curiosity can be dangerous here," he said, his voice echoing around them. "Remember, you are visitors in a world of stories. Some tales are not meant to be opened lightly." Feeling the weight of his words, they continued through the halls, cautiously avoiding the open books scattered around them. After what felt like hours of wandering, they came to a room filled with mirrors. Each mirror showed a different scene. A young knight fighting a dragon, a princess climbing a tower, a wizard casting spells in a swirling storm. They realized these were glimpses of tales trapped in the library, each waiting for someone to read them. At the far end of the room was a tall arched doorway shrouded in mist. Above it hung a sign that read, "Exit." Relieved, they hurried toward it, but as they reached the doorway, a voice stopped them. "Leaving so soon?" It was the girl in the old-fashioned dress, her sad eyes gazing at them. "Will no one read my story?" Ben hesitated, his heart aching for her. But Lucy took his hand. "We can't stay, Ben. We have to go back." The girl watched them go, her form slowly fading into the shadows. As they stepped through the doorway, they felt a tugging sensation, like they were being pulled backward through a long tunnel. The library hall faded, and in a flash, they were back in Willowbrook's library, standing in front of Mr. Grimm. The forbidden book was closed, resting quietly in his hands. Mr. Grimm looked at them with a knowing smile. "Did you enjoy your visit?" They nodded, still shaken but grateful to be back. Ben glanced at the old librarian, his heart filled with questions. "Mr. Grimm, was that real?" Mr. Grimm's eyes twinkled. "The Library of Lost Tales exists wherever stories are remembered. Hold on to your memories of tonight, and perhaps, one day, you'll understand." With that, he locked the forbidden book away, leaving the three friends with a memory they would carry forever, a secret shared only with the old librarian and the tales waiting in the shadows. In the heart of a foggy valley lay the old Somerset Manor, a grand but eerie estate that had stood empty for decades. The manor was known throughout the region for its elaborate masquerade balls, which had once been held every Halloween. These gatherings were legendary, where guests in ornate masks and costumes would dance through the night under the glow of hundreds of candles. But one Halloween night, many years ago, a tragic accident befell the manor, and the annual masquerade abruptly stopped. Since then, locals whispered that Somerset Manor was haunted, and no one dared set foot inside its gates. One Halloween, three friends, Martha, Thomas, and Olivia, decided to explore the manor. They had grown up hearing stories about the Midnight Masquerade, and although they were all adults now, their curiosity remained unquenched. They were drawn to the manor, each for their own reasons. Martha, a passionate historian, wanted to uncover the truth behind the legends. Thomas, an amateur ghost hunter, was eager to experience something supernatural, and Olivia, a skeptic, wanted to prove once and for all that the manor was just an old house with no ghosts. The three friends arrived at Somerset Manor just as the clock struck midnight. The air was thick with fog, and the moon cast an eerie glow over the estate. As they approached the grand iron gates, they felt a strange chill pass over them, as if the manor itself was watching. The gates creaked open of their own accord, inviting them in. Thomas grinned, glancing back at his friends. "See? The manor wants us here." Olivia rolled her eyes. "It's just the wind, Thomas. Don't let your imagination run wild." But as they entered the courtyard, they couldn't shake the feeling that something was indeed watching them. They made their way to the grand entrance, where an enormous oak door stood slightly ajar. Pushing it open, they stepped into a grand foyer, its high ceiling adorned with a massive chandelier. The light from their flashlights danced across the dusty floors and tattered tapestries that lined the walls. Though the house had been abandoned for years, everything seemed eerily preserved, as if waiting for the masquerade to begin once more. Martha looked around, her eyes wide with excitement. Can you imagine this place in its prime? The gowns, the music, the laughter. I bet it was magical. As they moved further into the manor, they heard a faint sound, soft, haunting music that seemed to drift through the walls. It was a delicate melody, played on a piano, with faint notes of violins in the background. The three friends exchanged uneasy glances. "Did you hear that?" whispered Thomas, his voice barely audible. Olivia frowned, crossing her arms. "It's probably just the wind in the pipes." But Martha was intrigued. "Let's follow it." They traced the music through winding hallways and empty rooms, each step echoing in the silence. The music grew louder as they approached a grand ballroom. Its double doors were slightly open, revealing a dimly lit room within. As they entered, their flashlights flickered and went out, leaving them in near darkness. Before they could react, hundreds of candles lining the walls and chandeliers sprang to life, casting a warm glow over the ballroom. The friends gasped as they took in the scene. The room was filled with people in elegant masks and costumes, dancing gracefully in time with the haunting music. It was as if they had stepped back in time to the night of the Midnight Masquerade. Martha's eyes sparkled with fascination. "Look at their costumes. They're beautiful. They look so real." Olivia, who had been skeptical until this moment, was now pale and wide-eyed. This can't be happening." Suddenly, a tall figure in a dark, intricately designed mask approached them, bowing deeply. "Welcome to the Midnight Masquerade," he said in a smooth, deep voice. "We've been waiting for you." The friends stared, too stunned to speak. The masked man extended a gloved hand toward Martha. "Would you care to dance, madam?" Martha, caught up in the surreal beauty of it all, took his hand and allowed herself to be led onto the dance floor. Thomas watched as Martha disappeared into the crowd, swept up in the rhythm of the music. He and Olivia exchanged an anxious glance. "We should go after her," Thomas whispered. "This doesn't feel right." But just as they were about to step forward, two other masked figures appeared, each offering a hand to Olivia and Thomas. Without waiting for a response, they guided them onto the dance floor, where they were soon enveloped by the swaying, elegant crowd. The music grew louder, faster, and the room began to spin as they danced. They could feel themselves being pulled deeper into the rhythm, as if the music itself was taking control. As the minutes ticked by, the friends noticed something unsettling. The guests around them seemed to blur and shift, their faces losing detail, their movements becoming less fluid and more mechanical. The dancers' costumes appeared to fade, revealing ghostly, hollow faces beneath. One by one, the dancers turned to look at the three friends, their hollow eyes filled with an unspoken warning. Suddenly, the music stopped and the ballroom fell silent. The crowd parted, and the tall figure who had first greeted them stepped forward, removing his mask. His face was pale and gaunt, his eyes empty, and he looked at them with a mixture of pity and amusement. "You should not have come here," he said softly. "Once you join the dance, it is not so easy to leave." Martha, finally realizing the danger, tried to pull away from the masked figure she had been dancing with, but his grip tightened around her wrist. Thomas and Olivia struggled as well, but they found themselves surrounded by dancers who held them in place with cold, unyielding hands. The tall man smiled, though there was no warmth in it. "You wanted to see the Midnight Masquerade," he said. "Now you shall be part of it, forever." With that, the lights began to dim, and the friends felt an intense chill wash over them. Their bodies grew heavy, their movements slow and sluggish, as if they were being drained of life. They tried to scream, to break free, but their voices were swallowed by the silence of the ballroom. As their vision blurred, they caught a glimpse of their own reflections in a nearby mirror, only they were no longer themselves. They were dressed in elaborate costumes and masks, just like the other dancers, their faces pale and ghostly. In their last moments of awareness, they realized the terrible truth. They had become part of the Midnight Masquerade, trapped within Somerset Manor, doomed to dance the night away for eternity. The lights flickered and went out, and the ballroom fell into darkness once more. The next morning, when the caretaker of Somerset Manor arrived to check on the property, he found no trace of the three friends. But when he entered the ballroom, he noticed something strange. 3 new masks had appeared on the wall, each one more detailed than the last, with expressions of fear and sadness etched into their delicate features. He shook his head, muttering to himself as he dusted around them. But if he had looked closely, he might have noticed that the mask's eyes seemed to follow him, as if silently pleading for release. As he closed the doors to the ballroom, the faint sound of music began to play again, and in the shadows, the dancers resumed their endless, silent waltz, waiting for the next curious soul to join their eternal midnight masquerade.